Hi, I'm Lynn Herbert.
And I'm Tej Dingra. In this episode, we're going to be hearing from some Chinese students on their Lunar New Year Gala, which was performed for the lower school 2 weeks ago.
And in keeping with the subject of Greenhill Chinese, we have received news that the Chinese program in the lower school will be cut, and all lower school parents have been notified of this change by email.
So we're going to be talking to Mr. Simpson, the head of lower school, on his thoughts and reasoning behind this major decision. But before we go to our first segment, we wanted to take a moment and congratulate Shreya Madhavener, who was honored with the Distinguished Delegate Award at the YMCA Texas Youth and Government Convention, which is held in Austin.
In this convention, Shreya defended her bill on the personal land rights for water removal and debated other contestants' bills at the Texas State Capitol building.
First, let's go to our segment on the Lunar New Year Gala.
So the Lunar New Year festival was really nice because when I was in lower school we didn't have that, and I didn't really know a lot about Chinese culture. Honestly, I didn't know a lot about Indian culture until I came to high school. So I think it's really good to expose our young kids to a bunch of different cultures at a young age, because one, it could improve how they talk to people. Definitely is how they sensitive subjects and how people sometimes don't want to cross different lines because of certain cultures. It helps expose them to this, and so it really makes it more obvious that there are different versions of everyone, and then what we can expect and what we celebrate for it. And for little kids, it is best to expose them from a young age so they can grow up knowing this and everything as well. My impressions of it was really nice because like I said, I've never been to one before. It was super fun. The high schoolers, not me though, the high schoolers did little improv skits. Some of the middle schoolers did a Cinderella skit, and it was really funny. You can tell that the lower schoolers really enjoyed it. They kept screaming and shouting and stuff, and you can always tell that the teachers were oh my god, quiet down. And then they would keep giving little, oh, do you know this little tidbit of the Chinese New Year and this, and it was really engaging for them, and they didn't look bored at all, which I really thought they would be, not gonna lie, but they looked like they really enjoyed it.
Next, we will be talking to head of lower school Mr. Simpson on the decision to cut lower school Chinese.
The situation is that we are always examining curriculum in lower school, and we spent the past year examining our language program in lower school and how it relates to the learning of a language as a foundation for learning other languages or the same language. And so after a lot of review and research and talking to peer schools and internal examination, we decided to go with one language. The next step, we decided to go with one language that we could devote more time to, because really this is a time issue more than anything else. And then we had to decide which language we were going to go with, and we decided to go with Spanish. So at the end of this school year, we will be sunsetting our lower school Chinese program and only having one language available for our students in lower school. Okay, so why did we choose to go with Spanish rather than Chinese? Two reasons mainly. One of the reasons is just in terms of culture locally, and our geographical situation next to Mexico was one reason that we decided to go with Spanish in this area. Another reason is at this age, children are still learning to speak English. They're still in lower school learning the phonetic rules of this language, of English, and whether they're native speakers or non-native speakers. And so having a language available for them in general as a second language to the language that we're speaking during our classes, one that's more phonetically similar and alphabetically similar to what they already know is within their zone of reach, allowing them to build more confidence, to have more success in learning about that language, which is ultimately the goal. We want our students to leave lower school confident, ready to take on anything and feeling like they can learn. Does this mean that there's going to be more kids taking Spanish in middle school? I don't think so. And part of the conversation, I know that's a concern of many people. Part of the conversation to get to this point was in conversation with the head of middle school and the head of upper school, and Jason Yaffe, director of academics. There are other factors besides language experience that go into I'm understanding this from the middle school perspective, that go into the selection of language in middle school. Among them, family preference, whether or not they're actually going to have to speak the language. I remember my son chose Latin because he said he'd never have to speak it to anybody. People thinking about SATs, thinking about down the road what will score higher, thinking about their dedication to international business, their geographical future, the sort of the fun they have in fifth grade in whatever language that they just seem to have a preference for. So I think there's a lot of factors that are involved in that selection from fifth to sixth grade.
That's all we have for this episode. As always, thank you so much for tuning into Greenhill Today this week
And we'll catch you in 2 weeks.
on Greenhill Today.